Operating at an extraordinary level can seem challenging. Learn how to survive in the lone wolf economy in the OG Money podcast with Lonnie Ogulnick. Drawing on over 20 years of experience in the trenches of Wall Street, Lonnie explores what it takes to be successful in today's rapidly changing environment. From daily routines, wealth strategies, and sustaining the highest levels of wisdom, Lonnie and his guests unpack proven ways to live an extraordinary life.
Welcome to the OG Money Podcast. I've got a real OG here today, the mayor of the most booming, hottest city in probably the world, Mayor Suarez.
I totally agree with everything you just said.
Yeah, no, this is beyond exciting. I come from New York, moved down here about 15 years ago, and I was a guy who was like, I could never leave New York, you know?
Right.
Walking through the city, the energy,
So many
the positivity.
millions have said that before.
Yeah. And then once I got here after my first year, I was like, I can't ever go back to New York. What the hell was I thinking?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I always start on these podcasts, I go backwards a little bit.
Sure.
Let's get into the history here. Your dad, he was an engineer. He's from Cuba.
Yep.
Came here with nothing.
Yep. 9th of 14 kids.
9th of 14 kids. Okay. So he comes here with everybody from Cuba?
Yeah, so he comes with my grandfather, who was a political prisoner, was imprisoned by Castro for not buying into the communist, sort of fraudulent ideology, which has enslaved Cuba for the better part of 60 years, and came to this country, wanted his children to be well-educated. My grandfather was an academician. He was a dean of the engineering college of a university in Cuba. So he wanted all his kids to go to a great school. So he actually emigrated to D.C. A lot of people, Cubans emigrated to Miami, obviously Tampa, New Jersey, some California, and, Texas. So Cubans all over the place. But the big populations were in those places. And so he went to D.C. and started asking around and said, hey, what's the best sort of parochial school? I mean, we're Catholic. And what's the best parochial school in the city? So funny story is he goes there, meets the headmaster. This is a very sort of uppity school, very expensive school. And he tells the headmaster, I want all my kids to go to school here. I have 14 kids. This is who I am. And the guy goes, oh, wow. He's doing the math, tuition times 14. This is a great business day. I mean, this is like one class per grade type school. My grandfather says to him, there's only two problems. The first problem is my kids don't speak English. He goes, okay, well, what's the second problem? The second problem is I don't have any money. My dad went to school there at 12. He learned how to speak English. Took the SAT at 17, so 5 years later, got almost a perfect score.
Wow.
Yeah, got full scholarship to Villanova University in Philadelphia, where he studied mechanical engineering, as you said, but he graduated summa, cum laude, mechanical engineering. So there were some people that believe he was the smartest student that ever went to school there. And then got 2 graduate degrees from Harvard. He got a master's in public policy from the Kennedy School and a law degree from the law school. So he's written about 8 books, came down here. He was the first Cuban mayor of Miami. We're the first father and son duo in the history of the city. And I'm the first Miami-born mayor, so that's kind of a little bit about me as well.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. So I didn't even really... That's some mind-blowing
stuff.
You genetically, he was an engineer, but you went towards business, correct?
Finance, yeah.
All right, so you take...
Both numerical backgrounds, but slightly different.
So you take those two.
Yeah.
You have an aha moment. I think it was back in December, correct?
Yep.
On Twitter, they mentioned something about okay, Miami could be the Silicon Valley of crypto, and you say, talk to me here. How do we make that happen, right? And then, boom, it just sets off a lightning rod.
Yeah, it was when you catch lightning in a bottle like that, when you have those viral moments, usually there's got to be some macro forces that are sort of conspiring in your favor, and there were. You had the SALT deduction a couple years before where New Yorkers now had to pay, and people in California had to pay an extra 10-13% in federal income taxes because they couldn't deduct their state and local income taxes from their federal income taxes. So that was, I think, the beginning of this sort of mass migration, if you will. And then you had public officials that were literally criticizing and mocking and insulting creators and innovators in their city. You had a councilwoman in San Francisco said F Elon Musk on Twitter. And I think he wrote back message received, and of course he left and went to Austin. You had a variety of politicians shooing away Amazon from New York when they had won HQ2, which I thought that was, frankly, I thought that was a miracle because I didn't know why would Amazon do that, but then it was confirmed, a few months later when the public officials basically shooed them out. And I think for me, the trauma of leaving a country like Cuba because a charismatic leader duped and defrauded a country, same thing happened in Venezuela, into believing that if you're poor, there's someone to blame for that. All we have to do to solve it is just take away the wealth from everybody else and we'll just distribute it equally and that'll solve everything. That ideology has never worked in the history of humanity. There's a very easy way whenever someone has some questions or doubts or thinks about how, the utopian concept of communism. I always use this very basic example because everybody remembers this from their childhood, right? Like if you're in school and you work really hard and you get an A, and someone doesn't work so hard and they get a C, and then someone doesn't work at all and they get an F. At the end of the year, if the teacher tells you you got a C, you're going to say, well, that's not fair. I worked really, really hard to get my A. Even the C student's going to say, well, I tried and maybe I couldn't perform at the level of the A student, but I did my best. And why is the F student getting the same grade as I am? And the F student who didn't do anything said, I'm still not going to do anything. So the A student is leaving. They're going to go. They're going to go to a place where their innovation, where their hard work is rewarded. The C student may or may not leave. They have nothing to lose. They're getting the same grade. And the F student, but they might say, you know what, I'm going to put in less effort because no matter how little effort I put in, I'm still going to get the same grade. And the F student is not going to do anything different because they know they're going to get an upgrade, And so everybody gravitates towards being an F student, essentially, in a country. And that's what destroys countries. That's why you have a country like Venezuela, which was the second wealthiest country in the world. Now 90% of its residents live below the poverty level. So that is very stark, and it's kind of like a trauma that we've lived. And I see that very same trauma kind of replaying itself with people that are fleeing these high tax, high crime cities that feel that they're not getting the sort of return on their investment, if you will.
So you're actually seeing that drift into the United States a little bit, huh?
I am, and it's kind of inuring to Miami's benefit because we do three things very, very well. We keep taxes low, we invest in our police to keep crime low, and then we focus on quality of life. And it's that simple. That's what we do. That is our brand. What I've started realizing when we had been very systematic about trying to grow this tech ecosystem for about 10 years. And it was like creating a startup that was growing without any VC money, just trying to scale slowly and grinding out a growth. And then all of a sudden, like you said, I got this tweet from Delian, who happened to be on one of my Cafecito Tech Talks recently, that said, hey guys, what if we move Silicon Valley to Miami? And I tweeted back, how can I help? And that tweet went viral. And then I realized very, very quickly that there was a very positive community on Twitter, which is kind
insane.
It's kind of counter-narrative.
Yeah.
Right? That there was this very positive community of people that want to talk about building things and creating things and building wealth and solving problems. It was exciting for me. It really hit that sort of engineering / finance part of me. And then I really realized that there was a crypto community that was extremely plugged in, extremely positive. And I had known about crypto and blockchain from before because I'm on the Florida Blockchain Foundation. I'm also on the Florida Blockchain Task Force. All this predates the tweet. And so I had already been following the technology, and I liked the technology. I liked the mathematics behind the technology. I liked the concept. It just got me started on that path.
Yeah, and it rings probably into your bloodline of freedom, right? Decentralization.
100%.
I want to go back for a second to something you just said. Like, what would it take for the state of Florida to initiate a state tax? Like, what would that... What would have to happen?
I hope nothing. I mean, in fact, I may propose a constitutional amendment to make it impossible.
Okay.
Because we don't have a state income tax. We don't have a city income tax, and that's a huge advantage for us.
Right. So, what was your aha moment like when it clicked for you on actually Bitcoin and the power of a 21 million cap? Can't inflate away the asset.
Sure.
And okay, I got all these assets here on the balance sheet in Miami.
Sure.
Would you, you don't understand, I think, the impact that you would have globally and not just in this country if you became the first city in the United States to just even take a 1% of your treasury. We saw that with Square, MicroStrategy, now Elon Musk.
Sure.
And it's just taken, when was that aha moment, and where are you in that? I would say, I would say do it yesterday if it was me, but where do you, politically it's hard.
So let me just sort of take a step back. again, when I realized how robust the community was, I wanted to jump in because the community was very positive. And I realized that there's some really, really smart people that are trying to push along this process to mainstream, right? So I first did something very simple. I just put Satoshi's white paper. I mean, I took a challenge that I don't know if it was Pomp or someone put out there. Let's see what government can put Satoshi's white paper up fastest. And we were number 2. Estonia actually beat us, believe it or not. We were the first government in the United States, first city in the United States to put it up. And people went crazy. They went crazy about it. And I thought, man, that's so amazing. The return on investment, right, for doing something that costs nothing is just ridiculous. And then I said, you know what? Just in talking to people more, I said, we can do more. And I think we can do it with very little risk. I put this resolution on that does 3 things. The first is it allows for us to contract with a third party to pay our employees a percentage of their salary in Bitcoin. And I'm reminded of the example of the NFL player who took 50% of his salary at Bitcoin. By the way, it was, I think, at 32 or something.
Oh, Kong, yeah.
Yeah. Now he's going to be one of the top 30 highest paid players. Yeah. And if Bitcoin keeps going up, by the time the season's over, he might end up being the highest paid player. I felt that freedom of being able to do something like that, it would be really cool for our employees. Then the second thing was we wanted to let our residents be able to pay for their taxes, pay the fees and stuff, anything related to the city in Bitcoin. So we're in the process of that. And the third thing was analyzing the possibility of investing in Bitcoin. I think what's interesting about it is, and I keep telling my staff, remember what the price was when I said it. And I want to say, do you remember what the price was when I said it? No, she doesn't remember.
It was a lot lower because it was a lot all-time high this weekend.
It was a lot lower. So it was, I don't want to say it was 100% return, but it was maybe in the low 40s. It's gone up 33%, at its high, right? When it was at 60. I understand the volatility argument and I understand the risk argument. And that's part of the problem, which is that in a treasury, just forget about Bitcoin for a second. In a treasury, there's a bunch of restrictions and rules about what you can and can't invest on based on volatility. So it's not, we don't operate like a regular investor, which says, hey, this is a good investment. Let's do it, right? Let's take the risk because there is a chance, obviously, you could lose. But we're working on some strategies and I have some kind of innovative ideas on how to do it that minimizes the risk. I like to do things that are low risk, high yield, so does everybody.
So that brings me to a point. If you bought safe asset, TLT, long end treasury bonds, you're down 22%, TLT in a year.
It's incredible.
Okay, you're 2% in gold, annualized over 10 years versus Bitcoin, 200% over 10 years. So when you put that chart up in the graph up and you show people that, which is riskier at this point? Because yield...
You're preaching to the preacher.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think what happens is people like to play on the volatility. I think I did Fox Business this morning and I was with Brock on Fox Business this morning, and the announcer said, well, it's lost, I don't know, whatever it was, from 60 to 55 or whatever, it's 56 or whatever it is now. And what if you would have invested at 60 and now it's at 56? And Brock said it's up like 200% for like the last, you gotta have a little bit more of a time horizon than a week. You know what I mean? So, but I think the volatility of it does sometimes, for whatever reason, make people hesitant. I'm a little bit more of a risk taker, so.
Well, I think the rebuttal to that would be like in 2000, the NASDAQ dropped 90% from top to bottom. In 2008, the bank sector dropped 90% from top to bottom. The S&P dropped, 48% top to bottom. So what asset class doesn't have volatility? That means you can invest in nothing. And like I said, the safest investment you would put in your treasury at long-term bonds is down 20% in a year.
Yeah, those are all. By the way, you should come up with some talking points for me.
I will. Because I'll be your right hand man.
Awesome talking points.
Yeah,
I love that. You could prep me every time I go on television. But yeah, those are great talking points, and they're right, and you're right about all of them. So and they're all verifiable. You're right. Look, you don't have to convince me. We have to just convince a bunch of people that are more skeptical than I would be. But let's go back for a second to the concept. And I think part of the problem is people don't understand the concept. And by the way, I've talked to some really smart people that don't get it.
Oh, yeah.
Really smart.
I'm a money manager. I speak to billionaires, millionaires all day, every day.
They don't get it.
2% get it.
And I'm not going to be critical of the Treasury Secretary. I'm not, I don't know her. But sometimes I feel like she doesn't get it. You know what I mean? So like I've been asked on HBO Axios, I've been asked on, those comments keep coming up, and I wonder whether A, she either doesn't get it, or B, she's just afraid to lose control, right? Because I think what happens is, what people don't understand is anything can have value. Value is based on what we agree as a society has value, right? We can value anything we want. And we can value digital assets. In fact, I'll go a step further. Pre-Bitcoin, we were already on digital assets. And why do I say that? When you want to know what the balance is in your bank account, you don't show up to the bank physically, and they don't take you to like a little area of the bank where your cash is like in like some little box, right? Like some little, no, you open up your laptop, you know what I mean? You punch in your password and you see a digital representation of how much money you have in your account. So it's already here. The problem is, and the difference is that that cash ultimately is tethered to a central bank and to people who want to implement public policy with the use of that currency. And that could have repercussions. Like, you know, I bought people. So to give you another funny story, people ask me in every interview, do you own Bitcoin? Do you own crypto? For a while, I would say it's a trick question. And they're like, well, what do you mean it's a trick question? I said, it's a trick question. If I tell you, yes, I own Bitcoin or crypto or whatever, you're going to respond saying, well, that's why you're talking so good about it, because you want to pump up the value. You know what I mean? If I say I don't own it, then you're going to say, well, then you don't have confidence in it. You're just, you're doing that, but you don't really have. So when I bought it the day the Senate passed a $1.9 trillion spending bill. Literally, I was in a place, literally stopped everything I was doing right when I got the alert that the Senate had passed that bill. Bought it when it went back to the House. The House repassed it because it had changes. I bought more when that happened, and I think I bought some when the president signed it. So because when you're creating 40% more money into the money supply, number one, people are going to hedge into an asset that the supply of it is not manipulatable.
Yeah, waterfront property in Miami, scarce art,
absolutely,
scarce Bitcoin,
absolutely. Number two, when you have so many more dollars, by its very nature, you have more dollars to buy more Bitcoin. So it's almost inevitable that the price will go up to some place.
Can I touch on the value proposition that
Sure,
I had, like a aha moment that
absolutely
the value of Bitcoin is life and death? What do I mean by that?
Yeah, go ahead. I'd
Talk
like to hear that.
talk like if you were able to speak to your father about his grandfather when you guys fled Cuba, you had no assets.
Yeah.
What if you can download all those assets? You sold everything. You saw Castro coming.
Right.
You got rid of your assets. You stuck it in a tracer. You put it in your pocket. You got on a boat. You came here. Now you had a few $1 million to get started with, right? In Germany, the Jews, what if they were able to get rid of their assets as they saw Hitler coming to power and got here? What about, like you said, in Venezuela 25 years ago? They sold their assets. They got out of here with their money. They lost everything. Everybody lost it. And many people lost their lives. They couldn't move their gold, their house, their art, nothing. So they stayed. And they died.
That's a very powerful observation.
Right.
Being able to transfer those assets efficiently electronically.
Over space and time.
Electronically is something that a lot of those unfortunate victims of those tragedies were not able to do. And imagine how many people had to start their lives over with zero. My family being one of them.
Yeah.
Started at zero, literally. It's very, very tragic, but it's a great example. Listen, you can write my talking points. I
will.
Yeah.
I will. I'm going to be your right-hand man after this podcast.
I love it.
I'm going to end off this podcast with a two-part question. One, in the next 5 to 10 years, what do you see the vision for Miami as?
Look, this is going to sound over the top or fantastical.
Yeah.
I really believe that Miami will be, and I'm using this new phrase, the capital of capital. I think it's going to be the capital of capital, and it's going to be intellectual capital and monetary capital. I really think we have the ability to do something that nobody else has ever done. If we keep migrating people from New York, which has a private equity, hedge fund, investment banking mentality, and people from the Silicon Valley, which has a venture capital, angel fund, and founder mentality, you're going to get a mix of people that we've never seen mixed together in a particular place in the history of humanity. In addition to that, you're going to have a ton of capital. So I don't think there's going to be a place in America where you're going to be able to dream bigger and you're going to be able to create companies better in the world. That's my vision. That's what I see. That's why I'm going all in, because if you really want to create an incredible city, you have to empower people. You have to give people an opportunity to be successful. And unfortunately, government oftentimes in their attempt to be sort of big brother actually take away opportunity and take away opportunities to be successful. And that to me, I think people often ask me, what's the biggest tragedy of communism? The biggest tragedy is not just the loss of life, like the Holocaust. It's how many people's dreams were not realized. What's great about our lives is we have the ability to dream, and we can try to do things and get things and live our life, the life that we want to live. That was taken away from people, and that continues to be taken away from people.
All right, I'm going to end off. I wrote a book called The Heart of a Beast, Surviving in the Lone Wolf Economy, which we're going to give to you.
I love it.
After the podcast. And this is off topic here. So you have a family, you have kids, you're running the biggest and fastest growing city in the world. What would you tell the listener who's building a business today and dealing with stress? You're in good shape. What is the key, to handling the stress of all of this and keeping it all intact?
I think you have to become comfortable being uncomfortable. That's one thing. I think for me, there's a homeostasis about your life that is important. Exercising, your religious upbringing, and having some sort of, whether it's meditation, prayer, whatever it is that keeps you central, grounded, understanding that there are forces that are bigger than you. They're going to influence the outcome of your life, and you have to accept that. I mean, and my dad has always been a great example of that. So I think for me, those are the things. And then, of course, I have an amazing family, I have a great support system, so I've been very blessed that day in and day out, I get to come home to a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful children, and that helps me too.
So where can people find you? Because you're active on Twitter.
Sure.
I follow you. We love your tweet. Twitter for me has been amazing. I've been getting all these podcasts just by DMing people, and you are super responsive, quick with your time. I really, really appreciate that. And I'm going to be here for you if you need me now that we're friends.
Of course.
If you need me for anything, whether it's financial advice, writing something down for you for talking points,
definitely.
I'm here.
Awesome.
With that said, where can we find you on Twitter? What's your handle?
So my handle on Twitter, I believe, is @Francis Suarez. I think I have @Miami Mayor one as well. And that's kind of the official one. And then I have on Instagram, it's @Mayor of Miami, I believe. And then I have LinkedIn as well. Check me out on all those different platforms and formats, because I really do think it's important, because that's how you can get your message out directly to people.
Yeah, you're going big. This isn't your last stop on the political right. You're going places, and my dream is to take your job and be the mayor of Miami.
Go for it.
Yeah, that's what I'll replace.
Somebody's going to have to do it.
Yep.
I'm not going to do it forever.
Right. So you're doing a great job. Keep up the great work. Keep everything you're doing, and keep pushing the envelope.
I will.
Thank you for listening to the OG Money Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available.
Securities offered through Securities America Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Securities America Advisors Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. This site is published for residents of the United States and is for informational purposes only, and does not constitute an offer to sell or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security or product that may be referenced herein. Persons mentioned on this website may only offer services and transact business and/or respond to inquiries in states or jurisdictions in which they have been properly registered or are exempt from registration. Not all products and services referenced on this site are available in every state, jurisdiction, or from every person listed. Third-party comments may not be representative of all customer experiences.